Yeah, 700.
Okay, here we are. Look at you. Turn the lights off on your way by there, just beside the door. Thanks. Thank you. And who am I looking for? Lily? That's you, yeah. And we're still looking for Liz or Steve. No, Steve. Okay. Yeah, I said we're started on the YouTube is being broadcast now, so it'll be available on the website again when you want to review it or look at it for the first time or use it to catch up. Let's see if I can make it a little bit more legible. I'm not sure how I'll do that, but I think maybe if I even try and zoom in one step. And you should realize that too. When you're using it on YouTube, you can make it full screen and zoom in on that screen too, so that you have some control over that. So we'll look at a little bit more of video management as we go along and how to use YouTube and how to make your own custom YouTubes and edit your YouTube videos and add value to your YouTube videos and all that good stuff. Yeah, but for today, this is what I thought I'd do. I want to add some value to your blogs again. And every time we sort of do this, I hope you're getting a little bit more familiar and recognize where you are in the blog. What do you call that main place where you do the work in your blog? Dashboard, yes. So, and where do you find the dashboard? When you're logged into your blog. There's a few places, right? Probably one of the simple ones, though, is up on the top right-hand corner of your blog is this thing called design. It always puts you into this dashboard. I haven't Skype yet. Did everybody else sign into Skype too? Yeah, look, a few people. Hello, hello. Bernadette, are you still getting the conversation as well?
Yeah.
Skype conversation?
Yeah.
Because you're sending me a message privately to me, right? Which is fine. But if you just say hello in the hello somewhere, yes. Hello. And how many of you have made connections with other people on Skype now? Added? Few, yeah. So you know how to do that once you get into when you're in the PENT conversation, we're up where it says 18 participants. It should show you who the participants are. And then once you have you see who the participants in this conversation are, you can click on their little icon and again, ask them to be connected. And everything you do on Skype is, mutual. You have to agree to it, and you can refuse if you don't want to be connected on there. So there's lots of possibilities for making good connections for down the road too. As I said, this is get used to using this channel for communication down the road. When you're on the job, you can keep touch base with people, and it's amazing how much it power gives you, or something's going sour and you need a little bit of support from, just say hi on Skype, and it's amazing how, or even a text message or something like that. Any of these channels that you can keep open to people who are in the same boat as you, starting out teaching. We're good. Yeah. I'll let her today just that's going to be in that ICT class. How the heck do we do it? Oh, I've got it in my notes. I've got it on my blog. I've described in detail how to do this on my blog. So that's what I'm hoping it's going to be. The other thing I'm looking for full marks on the as you know, I said this is worth 40% of your mark, this portfolio, this electronic portfolio. What I'm looking for full marks is detailed notes like that, and an impression that you could go back and look at this in 6 months and remind yourself how to do things. But what I'm actually looking for the highest mark, the top mark, is a piece of reflection. What does this mean? How does this work? How would I use this? How could I use it for my own personal learning? How could I use it for my teaching practice? You know, how could I use it to share with my students? What is the value to what we learned today? So not just point form notes, although those are good and that's expected too, but also a little bit of a reflection. What does that mean, reflection?
Your thoughts.
Yeah, you thought about it. You know, first we write it down, which is good, and that's what helps make stuff stick, right? I described that theory before about social constructionism. What does that mean, constructionism? The old guy, Seymour Papert, what did he say? What did Seymour Papert say? What was he famous for? The theory of social constructionism. Means we learn best when we create artifacts of our learning. Are you okay there? Or you guys getting caught up? Or? Oh, okay. Good place to get started for sure. Social construction. So we learn best when we create artifacts of our learning. And that's what we're doing when we're writing notes or making notes of any kind, is we're making an artifact, a little thing, a reminder of our learning. And it doesn't even matter if you go look at your notes ever again. Just making that note is part of the process of learning, according to this guy. Then he says that it even gets stronger if you're making these artifacts of learning with the intention of sharing them with other people. So that makes the social constructionism of it. So if I'm creating an artifact of my learning, it anchors that learning in my brain. Even if I just write it down and never look at it. But if I'm creating an artifact of my learning with the intention of sharing with somebody else, then it's locked into my brain. I'm never gonna forget that. And in fact, with a little practice, you can do this. You can actually visualize what you wrote someplace. Visualize what you put on one of these mind maps. Visualize what you wrote in your blog. And do you ever have that experience? You can sort of think back and, you can actually visualize the note on the fridge that says the shopping list. Anybody do that? It's something you can do with practice. Actually, you can visualize what's there and recall it. So that's part of what he was talking about here too. So, and of course, with ICT, and this is Seymour Papert's big point too, is that this made that much more powerful. It amplified your effort times 1,000. So if you're just drawing things on paper, well, that's one thing, writing notes, drawing diagrams, making charts, all that stuff. Well, that's creating an artifact of your learning. But if you're doing this with multimedia, it's that much more powerful. And if you're doing it with multimedia with the intention of sharing with somebody else, it's even more powerful. So, and that's of course why these guys are so keen on having you learn how to use ICT and how to use it to teach all the time, is because they know it amplifies. It's a force multiplier. So, and of course, that's the idea. We want to amplify our force as much as we possibly can, make sure our effort is worth something. And of course, with ICT, make sure that it's the technology that students are learning is being used appropriately, ethically, responsibly, safely, healthily, all those different things that we looked at in the ICT continuum. That's our responsibility, is to promote that type of approach to using ICT. And we're going to build it into the lessons that we plan. Anyway, let's go look on the side here again. When you look in layout, I'm hoping you're going to have a layout with a sidebar on it. Remember, we were looking for a layout that had a crossbar the other day for putting our pages across there. And I think most people have done that so far. And if you haven't, do it, because that's where I'm going to look for all of your stuff for this class, for the lessons and your exemplars and the things that you're working on. But also, go down to the sidebar, find your sidebar and add a gadget. Remember how to do this? And there's a few of them on there that Google makes available right within the Blogger platform. And there's many, many more that we can find as we go along. What you're looking for today is linked list. So as you go into the gadget, add a gadget in the sidebar left or right or wherever your sidebar is, add a gadget, scroll down until you see, we looked at pages before that you put on the crossbar. Now go down and put a linked list.
Where do we find that? Sorry.
Okay.
The blog.
So you're on your blog and you're on layout.
Where? Oh, I have to publish my thing as I go and just go back and
Could be. I'm not sure where you are, but.
Okay, yeah. So layout. Okay.
Yeah, you see it now?
Yeah.
Everybody see that? Anybody else having trouble finding it?
Not yet.
Okay. Can you find it?
I'm doing the same thing as you.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. So yeah, you can post your blog and you can just save it, or you can publish it. If you publish it, you can go back to it and edit it again too, so you don't have to worry about it. But
Oh, okay, yeah, you save it then and then go
yeah,
back to
and you can
Blogger
go, and even if you publish it, you can still go back and edit it too. Yeah.
Oh, mine says sidebar top or bottom.
Okay, so the design you have maybe doesn't have this sidebar functionality. So I mean, you can put it on the top or bottom or whatever, but it's useful to have this on a sidebar. So you might have to choose a different design, which is easy, right?
It's not colorful.
Easy to change your design or your theme. If you go to the theme on this side of here, you're going to see all the different themes that are available. And you can choose a theme that has a sidebar on it. I guess that's probably what you want to do. You can still customize it so that it looks the way, no matter what theme you're using, it still looks the way you want it. If you got the color and the background, and some of that stuff won't change. The different themes add different functionality to your blog, which is what we're trying to do today. And because we're trying to make this a working blog, I recommend you use these functional components of it. So if you want to make another blog that's fancy and does other things for you, by all means, you can make as many as you want. But for this class, this is a functional working blog. So that's the point, is that you're making a professional teacher's portfolio. And in a professional teacher portfolio, typically you have these types of things arranged on it. So that sidebar across the top, this sidebar that we're looking at today. So yeah, so if you've been in layout, you got a theme that has a sidebar, it doesn't matter left or right. Go into that sidebar and go into add a gadget. I got my big head in the road maybe. And then scroll down on these gadgets, and we're going to look for the one that's called link list. And then just add link list. Back again to, okay, so you're on this place, you're on layout, you're on your blog. Doesn't matter, either side, and you can switch that if you want to after, but just put a sidebar along the side. It seems like that's where people go to expect to find this type of information on a web page. Yeah, and then add a gadget. Scroll down to link list. And here we're going to put things in here. So the things that I'm going to recommend today are resources that you're going to use for lesson planning. So maybe call this link list lesson planning resources or lesson resources or whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to go find some resources. And I've posted a few in different places, but let's go look for one called Kathy Schrock. Kathy, SC. SCHROCK. Kathy Schrock's Guide to Everything. This is an amazing resource if you're using anything to do with ICT and education. Fabulous resource from top to bottom. And we'll walk through it. I'll show you some of the things that I find of real value in it. But just copy that URL for her webpage. SCROCK. SCH. Yeah.
And then rocks.
Rock. Schrock. So called schrockguide.net. She's been working on this forever. I mean, I've known her since there was a sort of an internet, and she's been working this. And
Guide to everything?
yeah, guide to everything. And we can start from there, and then you can look through this thing and find out what you might want to bookmark other parts of this thing as we go along. But for the time being, let's just figure out how to bookmark her main or add a link to her main website. So you've copied this, highlighted this URL, gone back to your blog, and now in your blog, you're looking for that lesson planning resources, that this gadget that you just added. And now you're going to put on here Kathy Schrock. Yeah. Fill it nicely. And then put the link in there. And don't forget to erase that first HTTP so that you've got her actual address. Well, so I didn't actually get it. Sorry? Oh no, you could sort, but right now you're just going to have one in there right now. So once you get a bunch of links in here, you can decide how you want them to display on the sidebar. But for the time being, that's okay. And I copied something else previously, but it didn't show up. And then as soon as you've got that loaded up into this little gadget template, say add a link. And you have to make sure you add this link to this gadget. Good. And you see I've got a couple going here, and I'll share the other one with you too as we go along. And then once you've got that link added to your gadget, save your gadget. Now go back and look at your blog, view your blog, and it should have now a sidebar gadget that says learning resources, and you will have at least one in there, Kathy Schrock, or whatever you've called that. Does that work for everybody? What's missing? Which part are you missing? Is it not showing on your blog, or? Okay, did you refresh? Yeah, does it show up like this with this little toolbar on your blog? You're adding things on there, that's where we're going to be able to get access to that gadget as we go along. Yeah, okay, and then put the address, the actual address to her website, right? Did you find that? No. Okay, so just open up another tab on the top there and look for Kathy Schrock. Look for Kathy Schrock.
That's on there. Where are you? Did you Google her?
Yeah, and then here's the one.
If you typed it,
yeah, that
it'll
one.
be there.
And then you can change that too. Okay, now grab her address there. And just cut it.
Did I cut it?
Yeah, so just refresh on that page. Just, yeah, and then just highlight that again. Control C. Okay. Yeah, I'll go back to your blog. And actually, you might have to go down here to that thing. So now just erase that. Yeah, make sure that HTTP isn't there because it's already on the other address. Yeah, you only need that once on there.
And
Yeah, and then add link now, yes. There you go, and now save it. And then go back to your blog again. Now go to your blog. View what's on this side, and that's there it is. That's a hot link that actually goes to that web page that you're on. So we're going to add a bunch of resources on there so that these are all always available to you as a Oh, it'll be down on the bottom, so just go, did you get the URL? Okay, it's there. Okay, so then you add a link, now it says add a link. Just here.
Oh. What is it?
So you can, oh yeah, put that, so that's Kathy Schrock, so just put Kathy Schrock, or guide to everything, or whatever you want to call it. You can change this after too. Start with Kathy Schrock, just so that you know what it is. SCHROCK, yeah. Add a link, and we'll save. And now go view your blog. Your own blog, that's my blog. You want to go to your blog?
What refresh?
Kathy Schrock's name.
And you can sort these things in your sidebar too. You can position where you want in your sidebar. That work for everybody? Okay, so did you get the link to her site?
I did, and then I put it in there, and every time I go back, it's gone. So,
Okay, so one thing is save the link.
This is important.
Well, actually, you can just go to your, if you have the gadget. Okay, Jack, click on that date. Okay, we'll just go on this one.
So I edited it.
Yeah.
The link leaves.
Okay, and then put a name, just call that Kathy Schrock there. Unless, it's there, but it's just disappeared because there's nothing in it. Just save that in that.
We have to see the link. Or the
Okay,
preview to it.
go back to. I think you missed the saved version. You saved the arrangement, but there's another menu that says save. So go into that again. Yeah,
Every time I go to this, you're.
yeah, because you didn't save it. So you gotta save it here. Okay, let's try it again. No.
Can you do that, Michael?
Okay, and now, oh, I see, okay. So, put on the top there.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I didn't do save link.
Yeah, okay, yes, because you're adding, it's a linked list, so you have to add the links to it. And then you'll be able to use that to also sort your links as you go along. Work? Speed on that? Okay, did you get a sidebar? Okay, you might have to choose a different template because things aren't showing up. Yeah, your blog doesn't have the functionality that you need, so you need to go back and go into your dashboard and go down to where it says team. And choose a different theme. And try one of these simpler themes on the top there. Just a simple theme. Simple. Yeah, start with that one. You can change these as you go along. But you can see now it has the other little functionality. Yeah. So we already built in there. So that's good. Just didn't display on the theme. Everybody in good shape now?
So are we, so okay, we've got I added the curriculum
Okay.
as an extra one, but if I wanted to be more specific,
Yeah.
like per subject,
Yeah.
could I do that?
Yeah.
within-
Yeah, and in fact, you can make a few different, add a few different gadgets with link lists to different things, right? So someone's for resource planning, you might make another link list that's for,
When you know who's
specialties.
Yeah, like if I wanted the website can be so confusing.
Yeah.
And if I wanted like K science, K math,
Yeah.
K, I can just do that so it's easier.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why this functionality is so important, is because you can put it in there. And organize and sort, as I said, that's part of the job we have right now, is that the internet is this huge fire hose of stuff, right? But unless we can figure out some way to manage it and sort it and organize it so that we can find stuff and use stuff, we don't, we get drowned. Here's the other thing I added too, and you can go look at this, and just for practice now, as we just did this, go look for Canadian Virtual Museum. And I could put the link in. I could put the link in our Skype text chat if you want, but it's easy, probably just as easy to go and do a Google search for it yourself. Looks like me. So see if you can add this to your sidebar. So again, you're going into when you're looking at your blog, when you're logged into your account and you're on your sidebar, you should see this little tool set, right? The little screwdriver and wrench. And once you've got the link to the Canadian Virtual Museum in your, what do you call that?
Do we add it on the same lesson plan with the resources?
And it'll be part of the lesson planning resources. What do we call that space where we hold things temporarily? Clipboard. So I've copied this into my clipboard. Go back now and use your tools to edit your link list. And in this case, we're going to edit the link list for resources, for lesson planning resources. Now along here, you're going to have to add the link again, and remember to get rid of that first set of HTTP:// because you don't need it. Because when you bring her address or this museum address in, it's going to have its own lead in for that. Give it a name, call it the Canadian Virtual Museum. And again, this is a name, but it's also an anchor for the link. And that's what we discovered back there. If you don't put a name for this thing, you've added it, but there's nothing to show up on your blog. So there's nothing to anchor it to. So this name, the new site name, is actually the link anchor. Okay, so once you've done that, you'll see that it gives you, then you can add this, and to make sure you add the link again. Don't forget to add the link. And then save again, right within this gadget. Make sure you save again. And then once you've saved that, you should go look at your blog, and you'll have two things in your display, just like what I've got here. And we'll look at this Canadian Virtual Museum because they got a pile of stuff on here, resources for anybody that's teaching history, Canadian history, or any kind of history, or many other things as well. They got some amazing resources on there. So everybody make that work? Working on it, need a hand?
On the title.
So this is Canadian Virtual Museum.
That's the title?
Yeah,
And then
that's the title of this one.
Same.
No.
we put the name, yeah, site name.
This is, the title is your link list, right? You already have that on there, right? You call it lesson plans?
Oh, resource, okay.
Yeah, or lesson resource, lesson
Yeah,
That's
plan
what I
resource.
thought.
Yeah, see, that's your link list.
And then the thing
And
on.
then this is the title of this link. And this link is the Canadian Virtual Museum.
Oh, okay.
And then make sure you add the link, yeah.
Yep.
And then save it again here.
Oh, okay.
So now you should have two things when you go look at that thing, although I didn't see it for some reason I didn't see Kathy Schrock on there. So
Yeah, I put that.
let's go look at it. And see. You, just save this.
How come it's
And then
not
check
showing?
View log.
You go.
Okay. Oh, you got two things in there. You added two gadgets, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is fine, you can make as many gadgets as you want,
But
but,
you wanted was
yeah, but
one.
you want to put all the things that are lesson planning resources in this.
I didn't find the link though.
Well, go in here.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so now, put Canadian Virtual Museum,
On here,
yeah, because you still have it on your.
Canadian, okay, virtual museum. And
And
then
then highlight that,
get rid of it.
yeah, and just control V now, right, because it should still be in your, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then add link. And look, and I'll save. Now you should have two in there, and then, I don't know, you can blow that one away or use it for something else or whatever, just,
But that's Kathy Socks.
what do you get? Oh, I see, okay.
Now we
Oh,
added the other one.
Oh, okay, I was looking at the shoulders, so I missed it.
Are you gonna add two?
No, no, I
No,
don't think so.
we
It's
can
not
add
allowing
another.
me to add more.
Isn't it?
Like I've got
Two
but I-
links?
Yeah,
Oh, no, I
Like-
had,
because I've got the two, the curriculum and Kathy.
it depends how many you set to display, so click on that little gadget again for the link list.
Oh, yeah,
So would
okay.
I add it on this one or do I?
Yeah, just add it.
again?
No, just
Oh.
add it on this one. Right?
Is it so special? Hang on.
Add
It's the
just
same thing within, these are all gonna be things that are
No.
learning resources. Things that are learning.
See, the same thing happened. I
Yeah.
deleted one of them anyway.
Okay, good.
Just leave this like
Oh.
that, or how do I get,
Oh, you got two there.
yeah, I've got
Click on-
Kathy Socks, but I've got two.
Click on this one and add museum to this one. Because you want to just highlight that.
I'm getting rid of this.
Yep, just paste at the top. Okay, now put, site name, put museum.
Museum.
Oh, yeah, full time, you can change this one too.
Okay, museum.
Now add link. Save.
Now, get rid
Now
of
get
this
rid of
one.
that. So you got to put this, so just say remove at the bottom.
Yeah.
So now you've got one link list on the side with learning resources. No, it's okay, don't worry about this. We can go through this one more time, okay? Okay, so you found that, go to that link. No, you don't want to copy that one, that's your Google search.
So it's
Click
not
on the
gonna
virtual
have
museum
gadgets.
Canada.
Oh.
But it still needs,
You
still.
found it, here's the link from this. Yeah. You want to go to their website. Now grab that URL. Yeah. This is one time. Control C.
Oh,
Good, that'll work, yeah. So now you're going to, you already have that one, so now this one, you want to put, highlight this one here. And then
yes.
that one, you want to put the address in there. Control V. Yeah, and I'll call this one virtual museum, site name is virtual museum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Well, yeah, add link first.
Just press that, okay. Step 8.
That's it. Okay, so now we'll look at your blog and see what it looks like.
Click, what is it?
So just, close, you can close this little thing because that's.
Magic word.
And refresh this. You're get rid of this. I'll throw it out the Internet Explorer altogether, but you want to be in that one. But you, no, that's mine. You might want to go to yours. You get a bookmark in yours too, so go back to Gmail. There you go. Get in here and find login. Scroll down to find login. There. Okay, that's you. Okay, so now put this little thing in there. Little bookmark. And just hit delete and then you can just hit the delete button. And then it's going to be in the bar. Is it done? Okay. Done. Okay, so now we know that your blog is that. Let's go view your blog. Let's see, that's your dashboard, but we don't actually view the blog. For some reason, your template didn't change. Well, yeah, let's look at that thing there. Yep. Okay, it's just got things on a little bit of a different display, and that's probably workable for what you're doing, but we'll keep working as we go along. Yeah, well, that's good. Everybody good? No? Let's try and put one more. One more that I like a lot. Guy's name is Richard Byrne. He's got a website called Free Technology for Teachers. And instead of 4, it's 4, the letter number 4. So do a quick Google search for Free Technology for Teachers. Or Free Tech for Teachers. This guy, Richard Byrne. I lose a lot of stuff from him. Control C, copy, go into your blog. Now, when you're in your blog and you're logged in, you should see this little toolbar on the learning resources places that you want to be. Click on that one. And doing the same stuff, right? So call this one Free Tech for Teachers. Teachers, spell teachers, right? Get rid of the first HTTP and put his link in there. Once you've got it in there, add link, and then save. And before you actually publish this, just keep looking in that little gadget workspace. You see the different things that you can do with each one of these links, right? So here it says you can move it up and down. So this is what they're talking about, sorting. If you want to sort your link list and organize them alphabetically or something like this, so I would put Canada first. I'd move it up the list till it's up at the top because it's a C, F, K. So you can sort things alphabetically. You can edit this particular link if you want to change the name to it, or you can delete this link. If you don't want this link in your link list anymore, you can delete it. So in this case, though, I want those are the 3 really useful ones right now that I want you to have ready access to, and you're going to hear me referring to them quite a bit. Is these, especially Kathy Schrock, but also Richard Byrne, and I encourage you to sort of just wander through both of those websites just to see what's available in there. And it's pretty powerful stuff. So, and guess what Richard Byrne uses for his portfolio? What is this little symbol on here? It's a blogger blog. He's got a different domain name. He owns the domain name called for free tech for teachers or whatever.com. But it's just it's a regular little blogger blog, just like you got, right? But the only thing is different is he's been working on it forever. So he's been adding all this stuff, and I think he actually makes a good living off it now. And that's sort of his specialization now, is that he's found free tech for teachers. And that's his emphasis, and that's why I like to recommend it too, is because I believe in free tech. I don't think you have to spend money for any of this stuff, really. So I do spend money on a few things, but I really encourage people to find a free version, and there's always a free version, especially if you're recommending to your students. Yeah, not everybody's got a big pocket full of money like I do. Do I? I don't have a big pocket full of money. That's why I use all this free stuff too. And why pay for it when you've got something just as good or better that's free? And you're going to find this as you go along with lots of different things. They're going to ask you to pay for something that really it's no better than the free stuff that you can use. The open source stuff that people have developed for the love of developing stuff. And I'll try and point out a few things as we go along over the course of the rest of the course, the things that people have developed for love, and stuff that people have developed to try and make a buck off you and sometimes trick you. So there's lots of people who still create things, especially for education, in the education field, just because they want to. They want to share. And this is part of what's called the gift economy of online experience. When the internet first started, mostly when people were creating stuff, is because they could. They could make stuff and they could share it with other people. And that gave them joy, pleasure, purpose, whatever. After a while, of course, people started to try and make money off it. If you ever had big expenses for stuff, you try and recover your expenses. If you had to, have server space or equipment or stuff like that, you try and recover your costs, but you weren't trying to make a fortune off of it. That quickly changed, of course, when companies started getting on here and developing applications and sucking everybody into coming using their applications and making them better, and then turning around, kicking everybody out and selling it to them. And I can't tell you how many things I've participated in, I've worked on, I've done work in these spaces, adding value to their spaces, only to have them turn around and say, sorry, buddy, now you got to pay. If you want to use the stuff that you built and helped us build, it's going to cost you. So we'll talk about some of the realities of that's just the economy of it, I guess. But there still is a very active open source free economy of online stuff that I really promote and encourage people to use, because as I said, often the free stuff is even better than the stuff that you can pay for. That's not to say stuff like Google, it's not exactly free, right? Just because you're not paying for it doesn't mean it's free. When you use Google, how are you paying for Google or Facebook? Your data. Yeah. They're collecting your data. They're selling it to advertisers so that they can put something on your Facebook feed that says whatever they think you're interested in, right? Or whatever your demographic is. That's why I told you, I always tell them I'm 117 years old or 119 years old. Not much gets marketed to the 119-year-old demographic, other than I said as funeral homes and burial plots and stuff like that. So not much of that either. So anyway, so there's ways of working around that. But okay, so here we've done. How are we doing? We'll go for another 5 minutes here. What I wanted to do now, and what I hope you do as you go along now, you're starting building your lessons. We started yesterday with the first lesson, which was collaborative. Using some sort of collaborative approach to this. And we did a quick little Google Doc. Let's try another one today, though. And I'm going to, just for the few minutes before we go for break here, I'm going to go into, again, we're going to use a Google thing. And when I go into Google, I'm going to go into my Google Drive. And when you're creating things and making things in Google, this is where you usually start. And if you look along the side of your Google Drive, and you can follow along with me if you want, I won't get you to create this thing, but just to find where all this stuff is, click on this and go under New. So when you look at new, here's the things that you can create with Google Drive. And this is sort of just the first list. There's a lot more that you can do. There's some that's not even displayed on this list, but we're going to look at this and we're going to go into more. So Google Docs we already did. I mentioned Google Sheets. I show you that's what I use for my marking and my attendance sheet and whatnot. Google Slides is going to be the presentation tool that you'll use for the next exercise that we introduce. But if you go to a thing called More, you'll see all the other things that you can do. And in this case, we've got Google Forms. And I'm going to show you how to use Google Forms. That's a marvelous tool for creating surveys or creating tests or quizzes. Fabulous tool that you can make a self-correcting quiz. Actually, you can make a teaching quiz. So as you're taking the quiz, if you get an answer wrong, it actually corrects you right there while you're taking the quiz. And that makes for powerful learning. If you wait till, at the end of the week when you get your marks back and expect to learn from the wrong answer you got, that doesn't work so good. But if you learn right away, if you got the answer wrong right now, and you learned right now, well, that makes it more powerful. That makes testing actually maybe useful. Maps, sites, all these things. Some of these things are things that I've already added to my account that might not be showing up on yours. So as I said, there's all sorts of Google functionality that you can add to Drive. As we go along, you'll see them. But I'm going to try this one called Google Drawings. This is a fun thing. So I'm going to call this PENT. PENT, fool around. Am I fooling around? Yeah. Again, remember when you create any of these things, the default is it's always private until you share it. So now I'm going to go into this thing and go into the advanced settings, and I'm going to change the permissions on this thing. So right where it says right off the bat, it's always private with the link can view. Well, I want you to be able to edit it. I want you actually to be able to work on this diagram. So I'm going to go into it and say anyone, and here's your choices. Anyone can view it, or anyone can view it and comment on it, or anyone can view it, comment, and edit it. And I want you to be able to edit it. So I've changed all those things. I've saved the permissions for this particular little drawing that I'm going to make. And I've got this. I'm going to copy and paste that link. I'll put it in the Skype conversation. As I said, that's probably I like that because it's one of the simplest ways to share links like that. Is anybody not on Skype today that needs to have it someplace else? Okay, I'm going to put it on the blog too then. And where will I put it? This is okay. I'm going to call this a collaboration platform. So if you go into there, anybody in there yet? Yes, one other person besides me.
I can't seem to log into this. Says there's a problem with your Microsoft account.
I did that too.
What did you have to do finally?
Just did it last few days. Give them your cell phone number.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, they want to verify that it's a person that's doing this, not a robot. Give me your phone number when you try to log in. What's wrong with me? Okay. Yeah, so now if you're in this drawing, start fooling around. So you can see all the different things now. This is a web-based drawing space. Collaborative now because we're all going to have access to be in here. Look at the different things you can do. I like fooling around just with lines right off the bat. When you go into lines, look at Scribble. So Scribble then lets you write your name. Write your name. So if you're one of these here, there you go. Myrna's linked and written her name. Hard to write with a mouse. A little practice it gets. little bit easier. There's actually little styluses that you can use that would work on this, but most people get used to using the mouse and get enough control on it. So did you find that link to my drawing?
Yeah.
Okay, so just click anywhere in it. Well, and go on. There's Janelle. If you look on the side there, you'll see lines. One of the things that you can do is lines. If you click on that, these are the different kind of lines that you can draw. Right now we're using the scribble line, which is the cursive writing line, I guess is what you could call it as well. We have other things that you could use. Yeah, you could use elbow connectors. Yeah, so you're on text, so you want to go over there and look at the actual line. Yeah. So these are the options that you have when you're, the text editor that you're using for this particular drawing has different text editing capabilities than you have when you're just writing pure text. You see it? Curves are, like I said, we're using scribble just so that you can kind of use your mouse to sign your name. Yep. Good. Okay, so go on my blog, and on my blog. It says drawing.
That's a link.
Okay. Yeah.
I was looking for something with www.
Well, I hid it, of course. I put it behind the text, but.
I don't know.
Did you find it?
I won't go to my phone. I tried out my phone.
Oh, this is for Skype? Okay, well, to do this now, you just need to go refresh this page. And,
This,
and then see drawing.
on this page. Is that
No. They'll let you through. They're just very cautious about this happening around. So many people try to use it to build blocks and cheats and stuff like that. Usually you log in once and log in with your phone number. Verify later. Okay, so we're in the line here. Here's the line. Just look on the side, the show line going down. We're using the scribble line. So, and then just find a spot on it. Okay, so then I go to my Internet Explorer, so it's not gonna work. What was this?
You're allowed to do it outside of it. You put it as edit. Would be allowed to.
So go back into my blog. Down here, it's one.
Even what did you use?
So now if you look at this line menu. Chevron, that was the arrow, it's called Chevron. And we're using
Put the puppy out there.
Yeah, get somebody out of the puppy. Yeah, go ahead, no, I mean, go ahead and use it and add whatever you want. We're just fooling around with this
Trying to
thing.
make it smaller.
So click on one of the corners and just click on the line anywhere and you should be able to get a handle which and resize. So it depends on a bunch of people that are doing it at the same time. And it kind of gets a little. Yeah, add some pictures. Insert. Go to the insert menu. And what else can you insert? Huh, all sorts of stuff. And again, don't worry about anything. You can't wreck anything. We're just fooling around, right? So if you need to find a space, scroll down a little bit and find yourself a space. Images. So if you want to insert an image, of course, you can find images in different places. You can do a upload. If you got an image on your computer, you want to upload it into or on your iPad or your phone, you can still upload it into this document and then edit it after. You can go into your photos if you've got Google Photos. As I said, I've got my phone set to back up to my Google Photos. Any picture I ever take on my phone backs up to my Google Photos automatically. So if I lose my phone, I mean, I don't want to lose my phone, but if I do, I haven't lost all my stuff. So here's me taking a picture of my electrical meter and my gas meter for billing purposes. What else have I done in here? My mom made a nice quilt. I'm going to insert that. Wow, look at that. And of course you can, once you've got it, you can grab it and you can reposition that wherever you want. Grab this little handle at the top here and tilt it. So you see on the top handle on these little, on the pictures or images or inserts, it gives you a little handle where you can tilt it and actually shows you the degree of tilt that you're doing. So for example, if we're going to use this for a geometry lesson, you could build something, you could draw something for a geometry lesson and actually replicate angles with a great deal of accuracy. What's Pythagoras' theorem? Who said that? Who's Pythagoras? Oh, we'll have fun with that down the road. We'll make a geometry lesson with this as we go along. Okay, so you see what we've done here. So this is, we've collaborated, making a mess for the time being, but just having some fun and fooling around. I think you can see the possibilities, and then we've got probably a fairly big group to make this actually work functionally. If you get more than 4 doing this, sometimes it can get pretty, well, it takes a lot more coordinating once you get more than 4. But if you've got 4 people working on a collaborative space like this, it actually goes well. You don't actually need a recorder then. And most of the time when you're working collaborative things, you need somebody that has a designated role of recorder. Well, with this, everybody's a recorder. Everybody can record, everybody can shuffle, everybody can sort, everybody can prioritize things, everybody can change things. And then, of course, everybody can save their own version of it. Let's look at this right now before we go for a break. Go into File. And once you're in File, look down where it says Version History. And click on where it says See Version History. And what it shows you along the side here now is, and this is the key feature of Google Documents, is that it saves. Every 60 seconds, it saves a version of what we've been working on. And then we've been working on it for, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. So it's saved 15 versions of this thing. It's kind of put it together and collapsed them into this, but I could look at this and change this and show different changes in this thing. So if we decide this is wrecked, and there's no such thing as wrecked ever in this thing, we can go back to when we first started this. So here's what it looked like when I first started this at 5:50 p.m. blank. Here's what it looked like as soon as Glenn Gatton and a bunch of anonymous viewers got in here. So there's a whole bunch of versions. So I can name each one of these versions, then we could sort it by name versions. So you got lots of controls over this too that give this some pretty powerful possibilities. Look here, right now in the last 50 minutes, we made 229 edits to this document. So, and you can go back, go through this, look at this, go through the arrow, previous edit. You could, so you got some power control over this. Anyway, let's take a break and then we'll come back and start talking a little bit more. Or if you want to keep fooling around, or if you want to make your own, of course. So go into File, New Drawing. You're in you have a version of this now in your Google Drive because you are a participant in this. You've added to this. So if you go into your Google Drive now, you're going to see under Recent, one of your things is this drawing. You are every 60 seconds. Actually, I think it updates even more. I think it actually updates every character that's put in. But for us, for the purpose of what we're looking at, every 60 seconds. I use this lots for when people are writing papers. I say, you got to use this because I can see your versions. So if all of a sudden I see, somebody's popped 3 pages of text into a document, I know they didn't type that in 60 seconds. So, and then I'm looking for quotation marks and a citation. Yeah. And it's on your blog. What's Skype doing? Is it asking you for a? So yeah, they're trying to make.
Yes. Like I'm already signed in there,
Okay, good.
so it's done.
Yeah, okay, so now open Skype again. And you might even have to, reboot your whole device. But let's try it like this, okay? Are you on Skype?
See? It's doing
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay.
So here,
Okay,
if I
there you
click
go.
on
Yeah,
here
that's-
again,
That's where you need to be.
See?
Okay. Try rebooting your device, like
Okay.
powering
Power down?
power right down and then power it up again.
Okay.
And see if that sorts it out. Usually you'll get to a place where it says, send us a phone number or something so they can confirm your identity. And what they're doing is trying to avoid people using it for scam purposes.
Who's that?
This is south of Portugal, where I want to be. Actually, it was shopping pretty good there this winter. Yeah, there. This is called Google Earth. And I got a little gadget, little mouse that kind of lets me zoom in and out and travel. Let's go see if we can find Canada. It's over here somewhere underneath the snow. Yeah, let's carry on. And the next topic I wanted to introduce was, and actually it's going to be our next lesson that I hope that you will plan. I want you to plan for the class using maps. And we're going to use Google Maps, which is another one of your fabulous Google things. We'll look at a few different kinds of maps, but mostly Google Maps. And then the other version is Google Earth. And that's what I was just fooling around with here. You can see it up on the board here. I don't know if it's very clear or not, but this is this application called Google Earth. It actually shows you the whole Earth. And I've got a little, it's actually a 3D, three-dimensional mouse for drafting and creating things in virtual environments. But it works as a little joystick sort of thing for traveling around the world with this Google Earth. And it's a lot of fun. What do they call this? What is that W95? And something on a map says W95. Yeah, or what is the prime meridian? What do we mean when we say the prime meridian? Anybody come across that term before? It's kind of used with time zones, right? So they've divided the Earth up into different sections. They've drawn imaginary lines on this thing. And the prime meridian is the first line of longitude or latitude. Longitude. So the one that goes over the North Pole and the South Pole, those lines that go around the Earth from north to south. And then lines of latitude go from east to west, around the world that way. What's the line that goes, the line of latitude that goes right around the middle of the Earth? Equator, exactly. And then there's the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of, what's the other one? Yeah, Capricorn, right? So they've sort of got these sort of markers. So if we're looking at this thing and I'm looking at a globe of the Earth, this is how you orient yourself to the way that the world works using, and this is kind of an old system, using lines of latitude and longitude. And as I said, the prime meridian is the one that goes supposedly through London, England, and that's the one that we call 0. So then everything else of that, as we move west of it, the numbers start increasing until we get all the way around the Earth to the prime meridian again. And each section of this is, further divided into units of measurement. So most of these things correspond to time zones, in fact. And then, of course, lines of latitude position us east to west. So if we ever want to find ourselves in a particular spot in the Earth, we can reference ourselves to one particular point of longitude, one particular point of latitude. And that system has been around for quite a long time. And we've always used that sort of on maps. Still a useful point of view, point of reference. But we now have other systems, and we have what's called a Global Information System, GIS. Anybody ever come across that term? Or GPS? What does GPS mean?
Global positioning system.
Global Positioning System, yeah. You got one in your phone, right? And you probably got one in your car. And it's the navigation system that now we're using, and it's based on having a whole bunch of satellites taking pictures of the Earth at all times and tracking that information, and then as they develop this satellite camera capacity, it's been able to create increasingly fine versions of this global information system, such that now we can kind of drill right down and see, I don't know, see the label on the back of your shirt, basically, or read the age of the dime in your pocket. And a lot of this is American military espionage type stuff. And a lot of this stuff of the internet was developed for that purpose. That's why they built in the first place, is they wanted to have a fail-safe system in case of a nuclear attack so that they have a method of communication. That's why the internet was started in the first place. The way we use the internet was developed by the guys that were working on the military version, talking to their buddies over there saying, let's go for coffee. So that's the version we work with. The military version is still there, though, and it's still very powerful and always developing systems. So these are all satellites, and I don't know, there's millions of satellites surrounding the Earth. Some of them are orbiting satellites. Some are what are called geosynchronous satellites. What do you think that means, geosynchronous? They travel at the same speed as the Earth. So they're always fixed above a certain point on the Earth. As the Earth rotates, that satellite follows its spot. So if a satellite is geosynchronous, it's always there. It's always above. And if it's more likely, what more often is used is these orbiting satellites. They're always traveling around the world, always taking pictures, always watching, of course. So, but they're recording information, and all that information goes together, and it's called the Global Information System. Very, very powerful system, and it's just developing more and more all the time. And again, as I said, mostly it started off as a military application, but now we use it for just about everything. I remember the first time I really was introduced to this GIS I was working for a band in Saskatchewan, called a Chapoys band, and they were in the middle of doing treaty land entitlement work. They were some of the first people that actually started working on treaty land entitlement. And they had trained a bunch of their guys how to use GIS. And at the time, it was nowhere near as simple as this. So these guys were showing me all this stuff. I thought, holy, that's amazing. So they were actually laying out claims to very specific parts of the Earth based on satellite data. So there could be no argument about surveyors' pins or posts or anything like that. It was all using this system. Of course, now it's developed to, you know, we use it in our cars all the time. You want to find out where you're going, speak it into your phone. Your phone says, follow me, turn left, drive 463 kilometers, then turn right, blah, blah. If you got the boy's voice, I've got it changed to the girl's voice. I like her better. She's sweeter. She's smarter too. I think she knows where she's going and she doesn't rub it in if I make a mistake. Anyway, so this, what else do we use it for? I mean, farmers nowadays, it's almost as if they couldn't farm anymore without GIS, because everything they do, all their fields are mapped out with GIS. They've also taken infrared photos of their fields, so they know where the weeds are growing. They know what needs more fertilizer. So as their equipment is going over there, it's always reading this GIS information and telling them more fertilizer here, more weed killer here. There's a big rock over there. Tell Joe to come out with the tractor and pick this up later. So it's all being done remotely using GIS. So again, for us, we're preparing students for the world that they're going to find, and it's only going to be more of this. So we won't fool around too much with Google Earth, although I really encourage you to try it. It used to be that you had to pay like $300 for this Google Earth Pro. Now it's free. They give it away for free. So, but you need a computer, a regular computer with an operating system on it. It doesn't work quite so well on the iPads or the phones or anything like that for Google Earth. Google Maps, though, still will work. So we're going to spend more of our time looking at Google Maps. And of course, where do you find Google Maps? Where do you find any googly things? Yeah, so if you're in your Gmail, what do they call this thing? Overflow icon, right? So it's actually the overflow icon that leads us to the overflow menu. Here we are on the overflow menu, and this is one of your things, one of your googly things. Once you have a Google account, you have a personal Google Maps application. So we all use Google Maps maybe for all sorts of different things, but once you're in your own Google Map, you can actually create things in Google Maps. And that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to create our own customized Google Maps to use for lessons. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of just building a custom map. And if you've done this, and if you should have it up on your computers, and you might want to just use the desktop computers for the time being. We're not so concerned about sound and video yet with this one. So we'll figure out how to use it on the iPads too. But for the time being, let's work with the desktop versions. And if you've got Windows, a Windows version, I guess is what I'm saying. So, or Macintosh, I guess if you're working on Macintosh, those bigger operating systems work better. So here's what you see on the side of this. Once you're logged into your Google account and you've clicked on your version of Google Maps, you'll see something that looks like this. And over here in the top left corner, you're going to see another overflow icon that leads to another menu, another overflow menu for Google Maps. Now this is the specific overflow menu for Google Maps. And you're going to see what you can do here. So all these different functionalities, you can make a map that's just for bicycle traffic or bus traffic or whatever. And this is getting more and more powerful all the time. They're adding features and functionality to this all the time too. But you're going to go down to where it says your places. Click on your places. And probably you won't have anything yet because you haven't created anything yet. But you see the different things that you can do in a map. You can save certain versions of maps. You can save a visit. If you've visited a particular point, you can save that point so that you can go back to again. But we're going to go look at maps. So click on where it says maps. And again, this is going to be your space where you create your map. Go down to the bottom where it says create map. And now you're in your map creating dashboard. This is where you can do stuff. So it's giving you a whole big map of the world. You can decide where you want to go. Look at your little menu along the side here. So you got to give it a map. Give your map a name. So but just try your first name and a test or something like that. And always give these things labels or name them so that you can find them and you can sort them out as you go along. If you start making 16 maps and you haven't given any of them a title, it's hard to sort them out. And we'll fool around. So I'll call this PENT demo.
So where do you go with that?
So this is in the in this when you clicked on maps, right? I'll go back one step.
Create map.
So when you went your places and across, then you had to go across to maps. Then you had to go down to the bottom where it says create map. So when you're on your Google Maps, right? Okay, watch now. Watch one more time while I do it, okay? So you're logged into your Google account. You're looking at this little menu at the top here, on the top left-hand side.
Okay.
It opens this menu, and then you go down to your places.
Okay.
And then once you're in your places, you're going to go across to maps. And then once you're in this, and you can see I've got a bunch made in here, but if you go down to the bottom,
Mine
it's,
says no maps.
yeah, so you haven't made any yet. So go down, scroll down, it'll say create map. You see it? It's down on the bottom of this panel right here, down here. You see it? Okay, so you create map. And once you say create map, it shows you this thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what we're doing now is just giving it a name. So here, usually it just says untitled map, but you want to give it your, as I said, every time give it a name just so that you can sort them out and keep track of them. So what happens with maps, maps are done in layers. So the first thing that we do is name this layer. So let's just name this top layer just for fun. And then save this. So everything that I create on this particular map is going to be saved in one layer on my map called top layer. Yeah, or whatever, or layer one or something, just so that you can sort them out, keep track of them. I just call it top layer for my purposes. Now you're going to zoom into a spot where you want to make a map of. And let's go, I don't know, let's go find some place. You can do your own neighborhood or your own apartment or wherever you want to go, or you can zoom in. I'll go down to, I'm going to go into, I don't know what I'm going to go to. Someplace around here, I guess. Find a spot that you are familiar with or you know. I'm going to go up to Greenwater Lake. That's where I'm going. I told you I'm going to go teach in the PA after this class, right? So I'm going to find myself a spot here. All right, I'll just do it somewhere around here. Okay, so now you see another little set of icons here across the top. So you see a little movie icon, hand mover. So anytime you see that hand, it means you can move something around, typically. What we're looking for is the little pin, drop a pin. Add marker, it's called, right? So if you hover over that, it says add marker. If you click on it, it turns your cursor, your little arrow, into a crossbar. So go find a spot on your map, drop a pin. So it calls it, first of all, it calls it a point, right? So, and it's called point one. I'm going to say, I don't know, something, I'll change it to be paw. Slow down. I can add something into this panel, just some descriptor for this point. So I don't know, demo. So now I've got a pin on a layer on my map that has a little bit of information, little data. The data is just the word demo. I'm going to add a little bit more though. I'm going to go over and click on where it says, see the little camera over there? Let's add a little bit more value to this. And again, I can add an image, I can add a picture. So I could go across here and do a Google image search. I'll go look for the paw. Search for something. Of course, there's a million pictures of the paw on Google, so I'll pick this one just for fun. So now I've got a point that has some data associated with it. Part of the data is the word demo. Part of the data is a picture that I got off the internet, off a Google search. So I'm just going to save this now. So now and I can close this little pin. Now I've got a map called PENT demo that has one layer called top. And in that one layer, it has a point called the paw. And the paw has this icon that has the paw has some information in it. In this case, it's got, like I said, the picture. If I click on the picture, it's got that. If it's got a little bit of text on here, I could change that text. Once I've published this once, it actually lets me do a little bit more editing. So you can see down here, I could change some of the things that I've saved on that point. But look here, what do we see these numbers? See those little numbers? What are those numbers?
That's longitude.
Yeah, longitude and latitude. That system that we have for world navigation. So this is the exact point in that navigation system where this pin has been dropped. So if you sent these coordinates, and that's what they're called, is coordinates, map coordinates, to somebody, they put it in their phone, that's where their phone would tell them exactly where to go.
Does it stay in the world map or just my own map?
This is just your own map.
Okay.
Yeah. You can edit Google's big map and Google Earth, but you have to have a specialized account and stuff like that. So they did for a long time. They encouraged you to do that, right? If you went someplace and took a picture of something, they wanted you to put it on Google Maps and Google Earth.
Have you ever heard of the plane crash? I don't remember where, but it was in the ocean, and then they had a picture of the plane in the ocean.
Yeah.
I feel like it's somebody edit that.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities for this. It's just absolutely amazing. Maybe I'll fool around with something after a while. My relatives live up by Wovell, and they just found a plane in Peter Pond Lake. Same thing, right? It's been there for 70, 80 years or something like that. But maybe I'll see if I can go find it. But for the time being, that's what we're just doing here, is just adding value to this one little map. Okay, so let's make a few points. Everybody at this point, everybody been able to make a point? Make a few points just for fun. Okay, and it can be whatever. Just get into, figure out the system of finding that pin, to add the marker, find a spot to drop it, add value, add information to that point. So I'm going to call this one, what did I call the other one? I call this one the paw. I'll call this one Clear Lake. It's not Clear Lake, though, is it? What is it? Greenwater Lake, isn't it? What's that?
They can kind of view the bottom of it.
Oh, okay. So just click anywhere in it.
Right here.
Click and hold. Yep.
Okay.
So generally you can navigate that way. If you want to move any of your stuff, which you really have to use it for handling, but for just that. So everybody good?
Yeah.
We've been able to make a map of a point on a layer. First. Yeah, make a couple of points.
Okay, to make a couple of points, do I
Okay.
just go to top of it again?
Well, actually, this is the name of the map. This is the layer here. So you want to change that and call it So that, no, change the name of the map.
You wanna put it up here?
Top layer
I'll come on, so you
to
have to have it.
first one in that map. So just-
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, not sorry. Okay.
Okay, there. Good. Now you created a point on your.
I did already.
Yeah, so you've got a point
Yeah.
on your top layer on your map.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now I'll make a couple more, because we're fooling around with it.
So you would click add layer then, right?
Well, not in this case, because we're gonna add another point with this layer.
Oh.
So just hit the little pin thing again.
Oh, okay.
Now find another spot just to drop another point. And that point will be added to that layer, that top layer. Sure, yeah, just use your imagination. A few points. Well, no, go over to, just go over to, yeah, just searching for something. Actually, maybe I probably can't, because go a little bit more. And go to Google image search. Just search for something there. Whatever you want to pick.
Get it?
Good.
Yep.
Yeah. That works okay?
Yeah, they're looking, but you know.
Actually, it's not Clearwater, it's, what is it? Clearwater Lake, is that what it's called? I keep forgetting. Clear Lake and Clearwater Lake.
You're traveling everywhere.
Yeah.
I made a website, I saved the picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you might have to save that to your files. See, is this in a Google search or that's a Street View search? You have to probably go get an image. So go back to the map. And which point are we looking at? That one? So now, search or something. Yeah, okay, well, we'll have to do, yeah, just any picture for the time. It's gotta be a picture that's already on Google though, right? So if you haven't saved it, that hasn't, the picture that you want hasn't been saved on Google. We're just putting sort of anything random there for the time being, to try and make a few points on this layer. Okay, so, save it. Save that point where it says save there. Yeah. And then you see the little camera there? Camera? No, or it says. Get rid of that. Where it says photos.
My photos.
And somewhere it should look like. Pictures there. Just looking on the computer for something.
Oh, here.
Look on, put that area there. Okay, so go to more. Really search. Now just search for something that's related to that point. Yeah, after a while, what I'm gonna get you to do is go and take some pictures wherever and put them in your maps. So for the time being, we're just gonna use any sort of random pictures.
Did you not use Google Earth or like, can you not get like an actual view of the, yeah, you can.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that you can do with this is actually put a YouTube video in there too. I think that's what we're gonna actually do is put a video in here. So if I found a point, I'm gonna make another point here. And where is it? YouTube. I'm going to do a YouTube search for at the lake. You'll find me a million videos of at the lake. I'll just use anything. Start with this one, select that one. So now when I save this point, instead of just being a picture, it's actually a YouTube video. So if you're looking at my map and you go to this point on my map that says called at the lake, click on it, it actually opens up a YouTube video that will play this YouTube video. I don't know what this is. Something, something, something. So you don't have to just add pictures, you can add videos. And of course, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go take a bunch of videos and put them on our YouTube channel, which then means we can put them on our map. Okay. So has everybody got, first of all, a map that's been named with your name? Oh. A map named with your name that's got a one layer called top or something and has a few points in it. And the points on this layer have names, have some data attached to them, whether that's a picture or a word or something like that. Everybody there?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go now where it says add layer. Okay. And then down where it says untitled layer, change that to lines. Lines layer. So the first layer we made was a points layer. This one we'll put some lines on it. Okay. So I'm going to save that layer. So now I've got a map with two layers on it. The first layer has points on it. I'm working on the second layer right now that doesn't have anything on it. But I'm going to put some lines on it. So again, looking at the little simple toolbar up here, click on the one that says draw a line. And here's some of the types of lines that you can draw. We're just going to make our own lines or shapes. You could add a biking route or a driving route or something like that if you're in a city and you wanted to make a driving route or a walking route. You can create a route, but we're just going to draw a line. So add a line or a shape. So lines, we're on a lines layer, and within that lines layer now we're adding, clicking on the line creating tool, and we're just going to make a line. Left click, hold, and drag. Point to point. Then let's grab one from that point and go another direction from that point.
I have to go
And then just keep drawing those points until you come make a shape. So bring them back to the start.
lines are-
Okay. So,
Make up a shape.
Maybe these two points.
so yeah, but we're now making another layer. So that's the direction I just gave us, add a layer.
Or you could add a
We
little
call this
bit.
layer the lines layer. So where it says untitled, change it to lines.
Just move
Save it. Now, I don't know why you got that so large.
Click on
You
the
gotta
layer.
zoom in the region.
There.
Okay, just start click, well, now go and click on this lines thing. Yeah.
When I just.
Add line shape. And now start dragging your lines and finding a spot on the map. Yep. Keep going. Yep, there you go. So if you're drawing lines, and then once you join the lines up, it becomes a shape. Right? Everybody got that?
No,
Okay, just keep drawing lines. In your line layer. Find a spot. Okay, then you join it, and it should, once you join the lines together, it'll be a shape.
important though, like, did you say important?
Or have you done another map?
Yes, you want it.
Which one did you start on?
I don't know, just.
See, I think it's
Well,
the one and I
What I'm trying to do though is to
There
get you to build one map that has a bunch of layers on it. So go back to that first map. This is the problem, if you're doing people the title, whatever you can do, which is what you're. Okay, so give this a title.
Then make a shape starting from here.
No, no,
Leave it back
no,
here. Mine looks like this.
no, title this map.
I made a star.
Just put it on your map. Okay. And now this layer, change the name of that, call that the points layer. Whatever.
Can you skip that?
What's this one?
And now, you can go and create another layer, add layer. And this layer is going to call line.
Did you look this one? Oh, you don't have to click this.
You already have my point
And
layer,
now,
and then I
working on
have
this
my
layer,
line
you're going to go
layer.
create. And get rid of that. And click the line tool.
That's it?
Yep.
Yes. Lines layer.
Line shape.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And we'll find a spot here somewhere.
I'm saying that.
Well, just put it on your, yeah, you can just drop it.
What we need to make it.
Go back and then find it together. Shape. Now you get a shape. We call it polygon, it's actually a triangle.
Here's the plot.
So now you've got a map.
Well, that
Map
I know.
It has two layers, one layer is kind of points there, one layer is called lines. Yep, we'll do that. Whoops. And you can change
What do you want to
the
do?
name of that polygon to whatever you still can. That's where we're at now. So you've got one map with two layers on it, one layer has points on it, one layer has lines on it. Is everybody at that situation?
Yeah.
You've got a map with two layers. One layer has points on it, one layer has lines on it, or shape on it. Right? So when you look at your layers now, you see a little check mark beside those layers. I'm going to call this triangle 1. Interesting thing to know, when you've added a triangle, in this case what I did, look what's inside here. It's giving you some measurements now. It's showing you what's inside this triangle. And in this case, it's 35.1 hectares, or 2.79 kilometers. So that's the area that's included inside this triangle. So think about that if you're doing a math lesson. Anyway, right now, let's go make another shape someplace. So you're still in the lines layer. You're grabbing the line tool, You're clicking on add line or shape. And then you're coming over someplace else and you're going to create another set of points, lines, points, and you're going to create a different shape, maybe tie it together, call it, in this case, I will call it polygon 2. And then look what's inside of there. 20.4 hectares. So what's a hectare? It's a metric acre, right? Bigger than an acre. So it's telling me that little space that I've created here, this little area that I've surrounded on my map, is actually 20 hectares. So now you're looking on the side here again, I've got a map with a name. The map with the name has 2 layers. One layer was called top or points. The second layer was called lines. In the first layer, I've got 4 points. In the second layer, I've got 2 diagrams, two shapes, 2 lines. So if I'm in my lines layer, and then look at the little check mark beside lines layer, for example. I'm going to uncheck that lines layer, which means that on my map, I won't see that layer. What happens? Those lines or shapes that I drew on that layer disappear. So now all I'm seeing is the points from my first layer. Or I could turn on the lines layer and turn off the points layer. So as you build maps with layers, multiple layers, you can add value to this. So for example, if you're doing this as a lesson for something, one day the lesson is, I don't know, some explorer that was in Western Canada. Next day was his competition from the other trading company or something like that. So you can make maps that have multiple layers with multiple points of information. Sometimes that information is going to cover the same area. So it's useful if I could turn those layers off and on. So that's basically what we're doing here. So everybody got a map, a named map with 2 layers on it and data in each layer that you can turn off and on. Good. Go into this 3 little dots here. What is this 3 little dots? Yeah, overflow icon. Oh, just wait. I got to go back further. Oh, share. Go to share. And I'm going to have to make it anyone with the link. And say done. Is that right? I might actually have to go back to PENT demo. Okay.
Share?
Yeah, share it. And actually, I'm looking for a thing called publish it. And where does that show? Sorry.
Share them.
So in these 3 icons here beside add layer.
Oh.
But I want to embed on my site. So do you see that when you've shared this? Basically, you've published it on the internet. You're going to embed on my site. Oh, wait. I did it. I did that already, I thought. Share button. Share button, there button, share settings. Anyone with view. Oh, I guess you got to make it public on the web. Sorry. Okay. So you got to pay attention and follow along here because we're going to go through a couple of steps that are important. If you get lost, you're going to be scrambling. So we've got a map now that you've published, you shared it and you published it. And you had to go into there and say, it had to be public on the web. Okay. Then we went back into this and clicked on that overflow icon again. And we're going to scroll down to one thing that says embed on my site. And when you say embed on my site, it should give you this stuff. What is this stuff?
It's not public.
Okay, so you got to publish it on the web, back up a step, go back into this where it says share, change it so that it's public on the web, save. So you're done. And then embed on my site. And it's going to give you this gobbledygook, right? What do they call this? Code, HTML code. This is basically what's called the embed code. Everybody there?
That's okay.
No, we're going to press Control C, copy. All that blue we want copied into our clipboard. So when it's blue, it means it's selected. So if I can copy that. Now I'm going to go back to my blog. And I'm going to go into design. And I'm going to go down to pages. So I'm going to create another page in my blog. New page. And then I'm going to go into the HTML editor. So where it says compose HTML, I'm going to select HTML. And then I'm going to go click on that space on that page and I'm going to go Control V and I'm going to paste that stuff, HTML code. Yeah, we're creating a new page.
So click on the pages tab and then click new page.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when you're on a new page, choose the HTML editor. This one here. And then paste that HTML code in the HTML editor. And then give this page a name, call it maps. Or map. Everybody there? And then publish it. And then go view it. What do you see? There. Okay. Okay, so go to pages, new page, HTML editor. So switch to that editor. Click in here. And if you've got that in your clipboard, yeah, click it here though. Oh, okay, there it is. Sorry, yeah. Control V. Okay, and then give it a call this now.
Mine just shows,
Now go view it.
but it just shows the.
Oh, okay, so you gotta add it to your toolbar. So go here to the tools. And now,
Oh,
No.
save
This is
this.
really expensive.
and that's what it's supposed to look like.
No, you didn't use the compose, you didn't use the HTML menu, you used the compose menu. So just pick the little pencil there.
I see, right here.
Yeah, and change, yeah, put that stuff in there. Get rid of it on the other part. So go back and hit it again.
You can see that?
Oh.
Gina.
What? And it's
Yeah. Go into the compose menu.
Update, publish.
Delete that.
Oh.
Now go back.
Oh.
Paste there.
Yeah.
And then publish. And I'll go through that.
Oh,
You click on that maps now.
See what I have down here.
oh,
There, there.
And then they have it on the down.
Did you put it on your toolbar? So put it on your toolbar.
see, that's where I'm at.
You gotta do that all the time. You gotta change.
What's the short map?
I usually follow you on.
Oh, this.
Oh, there's that.
So I have my layer one and my layer two. So the highlights and layers two.
It's open.
See, you get all these
If you
extra.
wanna close it.
Question.
Like I got this far as the.
Edith, come here. What?
Well, for the time being, just.
Okay, it's like this, Control C. Go to my folder, click this, right? And then paste it.
Layer one and then.
No,
layer two.
no, this is your maps.
What comes up?
Oh, okay.
So I got that.
Look what comes up.
Yeah, what? Where's my thinking right now?
You don't need to see it because you have to publish it first. But you didn't title it. You want to title your map. Title it here.
No.
So now, what we're gonna do, okay, yeah, just Control C. Go back to your blog. And you're on a page.
Yeah.
Is that a page, okay? Yeah, HTML, and then Control V. What was that? Yeah, okay, that's it.
That's all I
Yeah, and give that post a title.
This.
Actually, you got a post, not a page.
Oh.
So just delete that one and close that one. And it would work there too, but that's not the page.
See, nothing.
Yeah, page, new page. Switch to HTML, there, and now Control V. It should still be in the clip one.
It's supposed to say opportunities.
Right here.
Click in there.
Right there.
Now there.
See?
Call this page and
Yeah.
title. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, at least you're making me remember where.
That's good. Well, hold on, can you show me?
Ah.
Okay, and I'll publish this.
Oh, wait a minute, look like. What is that?
Now I'll go up to your
Check
blog.
out my,
Your
your
blog.
blog.
You should show.
And now how do I work this
Can you press OK after
And
that?
your
This one? Or are we?
For your blog, actually. your
I didn't
blog.
press OK once on this. What do I do with this?
Your
How
blog.
do you want to distribute this? I
Those
did.
are toolbar.
And it should have saved on your book or something.
Okay.
Would you say that I'm global?
So these ones here, is this how
This was your map.
Okay.
I made it in
Top layer of each
Oh, yeah,
background.
no, but you want to make it on your blog.
That's good.
Go into design
How you can do this? You can't.
and,
You will.
theme, what else is it? Oh, it's simple.
Pages, yeah. Yeah.
You wanna add pages? You go to listings?
Then back to-
Work within Google Maps,
All the time, you select all of these three when you actually
No,
go
when
to
you add 100 pages, I think you'll have to check mark it and then save it and then it'll come up to
Put a
here.
link list in your
on this
crosswalk.
yard and this
Yeah.
report. Oh, okay.
Remove that, just remove it.
You have to do that. You want to, this one, and then.
Put a crosswalk, and again,
Maybe we use.
scroll down all pages.
Oh, okay, and then save it.
Yeah, just that, yeah, page.
Oh, okay. My map is gone.
You're not calling it.
But is it same here?
Yeah.
Save.
Okay, where are you now?
Click on
No,
that.
okay.
Go over where it says pages.
Delete it? That's what I did, that's why
No,
I
in the middle,
made a quick one
over
fast.
to the right hand side of
Where
it,
is it?
where it says edit.
This one. Remember I had cross, like I couldn't even do
And then
that
just
one.
put a check mark beside where it says edit.
What do you have pictures? My pictures are right there. That's what you're talking about?
See these things?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This one?
Now you got a toolbar.
This one,
Click on where it says
Louder
maps there.
part?
Yeah.
Just some of these things.
So you've embedded a map on a page on the blog.
Where's all my other stuff?
How do I go back to it?
Okay? Worksheet? Blog?
Yeah.
So you got choose the blog, maps.
I don't know if I have all the maps though.
Oh, okay. So click on
And
the
then-
tool.
Like,
Oh, you got your
you
map
know-
Albertine?
Yeah, cause I lost my
Okay.
page, I had to do it quickly
Okay.
and.
As long as you know what it is and you can change, you can add it. and just so
But I wanted to show you what
But you need
this,
to change it, because I'm gonna
Do I
look for your
need to
maps on
recommend
that.
one there?
I know, but these is where
Okay.
I had to make a quick
Oh,
and
sure.
fast.
Okay.
like,
And you can go back and edit them anytime.
Oh,
And then, as soon as you edit them here, it'll change where you.
okay, so where do I edit them if I wanted to add, say, cross lake on here?
Okay,
On
so,
these maps.
so, actually, you should call this the map. Albertine's map.
Over here? Okay.
Change that to that. Okay.
Say,
And this is one map, so just say Albertine's map.
map, okay.
So
Say
you can
that.
make a whole bunch of maps. Okay, change this layers in there. Like that.
Okay.
You can change that to the top layer, wherever.
Oh, okay. Top layer, no, top
Okay,
layer.
say that, you can change this as you wish. So you got a map, called Albertine's map. It's got two layers in it, the top layer has one point called Goose Lake. You wanna put another point in
Yeah,
there?
I wanted to put another point.
Okay, so close that.
Yeah. And I think I just zoom in, right?
Yeah, so when you're in the top layer.
Click it?
Yeah.
Click it?
There. How do I get out of this now?
But that's what I mean, how do I
Okay.
add?
Okay, so just click on the points.
pages that are new.
Okay,
Oh,
that's why.
That's probably why you.
unclick lines there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
And unclick this untitled there too, but I can move this around so you can see it. And they've got smart thing stuff on the side there.
I know.
Okay, just click that.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay.
now you're on the top there.
Right.
Now click the point. This little,
Marker,
marker.
now go somewhere.
Now find a
Oh,
spot,
okay,
find,
then I can do from there.
then you can make as many points on that layer as you want.
Oh, okay.
And then you go to switch to the other layer, you can put as many lines on that layer.
And many other,
Yeah, and make as many layers as you want.
oh, okay.
Good, yeah.
It's across like,
Okay, that's fine, you're good, that's your map. Okay, click on your map, and you've got a map called Cross Lake, Manitoba, right? You've actually got
nowhere, those are my notes.
four maps. You've got four maps, one's called Cross Lake, Manitoba, one's called Lines.
You want that
Yeah, yes.
So we named all these right maps. Just click on Cross Lake, Manitoba.
Need to just come across to me.
Done last question?
Don't add another one.
Just close that and see what happens. You want to get into the mouse. This.
You're not around.
Places, put it onto it, says your places. Okay, go to maps.
Look at my,
Okay, so that.
Can you just search it?
Just,
yeah, you can, right there.
You shared it? No. That's what I was. Oh, yeah.
How do I go back?
What was this little menu on here?
There you go.
Just click on maps on that. Just close it, just to shut it off. Sorry. Yeah, let's get rid of.
Where are my other
That's what happens if you start trying
Never
to
mind.
explore the new place. Google doesn't have it, so it won't let you. So always use Chrome for this stuff. So now I'm going to on maps. Okay, it says default. See where it says default? Yeah. Because these computers are set to use Internet Explorer as default. We want to use Chrome as default. You're not going to the icons there at the top right? See the 9 squares there, computer stuff and on maps. Good, and if you want to the left, it's pull icon on the far left corner. Yeah, we were just there, this one here.
Okay,
This one.
did you get it now?
Maps.
No, go to your,
You click anywhere in the map.
no,
Ah,
start closing some of these off. No, your Gmail, just go to your Gmail.
I don't know.
Oh, click your, okay, now click your little icon, try. Go to maps.
So now you got a layer, one layer that's got one called cross-check, and you got another layer called, with a layer called lines. So that's good, that's where everything is here. So go up to the top here now. And then, oh, sorry, you know that one. Go to this shape. And then we're gonna go over here and change it to. Okay, now go to that, this is the icon here. You'll find embed in my site. Copy that cool. Just Control C, because it's all selected. Then now go back to the blog. That's my blog. This is your. And now you want to go to pages on the left there.
Maps, click that maps.
New page. And then switch to HTML. So here's compose, and then HTML. Yeah, take it out. Here's where this is edited for this. Then just click in there.
Okay.
Control V. Call this page map. So it says page title, change it to.
On the bottom,
Okay, now we'll do the model, check it out. See what it looks like. We'll probably have to add this to your. That's good.
it'll be on the
So go
bottom.
back into design there. at the top. And then we're on the
Maps. Read maps. Our title map.
Patient.
Look, kids. See, top layer. Top layer. Look at Jen, right? Just please turn it right and then you drop a point. Click this marker, drop a point wherever you find your area. Where is this? Not here.
Okay, so we're wrapped for the day. Sorry, I've been talking over. Now we're thinking about how can we use this for our lesson. Again, when we're planning our lesson, what subject area, what grade level? And then we have to think, what would be a good lesson that a map would help teach? And maps can teach lots of stuff, right? Whether that's history or music or geometry, as I showed you when you start creating lines and shapes on there. And it actually measures things. It measures the length of a line. So you could do stuff like teaching geometry, different types of triangles, measuring, doing simple math of what's the area, how to calculate an area of a triangle. And you can actually do it and create one. So lots of possibilities. Think about it. So that's 2 lessons that we're sort of introduced to now. We've got one lesson that we're going to try and do something collaborative, whether that's a drawing or a document or something on here where you can create something. You have to think that out, think that lesson out. And now one lesson with the maps. Okay. Next thing we're going to go on to tomorrow, we'll go and we'll start talking about podcasting. So this is using audio to create a lesson, digital audio. So tomorrow, probably you'll need your iPads or your phones or something to record an audio file. Okay. Questions or comments on today? And I think apparently the feed crapped out, so I don't know if it's I got dumped somehow. We'll see it tomorrow. No, it's still broadcasting, it says.